Awesome. 2015. Congratulations, by the way. 2015, you have perfect church attendance. Right? We give awards out after, but see, I'm telling you, it's perfect so far. So you can go on Facebook after today and you can say, hey, I've got perfect church attendance for 2015. This morning, I want to ask you to do something with me. We're going to read a verse out loud in just a minute, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and put it up there. And then that way you can be looking over it, all that stuff. But there are verses in Scripture that are kind of strange. Some of them may be a little weird to us. Some of them we don't completely understand. Man, I picked an easy verse this morning. This is like a coffee cup verse. Like if you got a coffee cup, people put this verse on the coffee cup. This is like a bumper sticker verse, or like my favorite, if you go to a gym and they got this on the wall, that's the gym to go to. Right? Can't you see yourself like bench pressing and you got 350 pounds on there knowing you can only bench press like 75, but you see that verse and I guarantee you'll probably try it, right? You'll die, but you'll probably try it. That'll be your last time trying that. But it's an easy verse this morning. But before we read it, I want to tell you a little bit about the guy who wrote it, just so we can get on the same page. The guy who wrote this verse, his name's Paul, right? And Paul, the first time we see him in Scripture, isn't a Christian. Right? He's very religious, but he's not a Christian. He's very religious. He grew up in the church, the system, the government of the church. He probably had the whole Old Testament memorized. He was goody-goody, but he didn't know Jesus. That was the problem. He was religious, but he didn't know Jesus. And then in the book of Acts, this guy named Luke tells us a little bit more about the backstory of this guy named Paul. And he says not only was he not a Christian, he didn't know Jesus, he hated Christians. And he hated Jesus. And he made it his mission, he made it his goal to go and kill as many Christians as he could possibly kill, to take out the people who were spreading the gospel, spreading the news about this guy named Jesus. But then Luke tells us that he meets Jesus one day and Jesus changes him. And then instead of him going, man, I hate Christians, he's going, dude, you need to be a Christian. Right? And instead of him killing Christians, he goes all the way around the Mediterranean realm, just planting churches to tell people about Jesus. God got a hold of his life and completely changed him. And Paul wrote these words that you see. But he didn't write them where you think he would probably write this. Right? He didn't write this in a gym. He didn't write this in Disney World. He didn't write this in Bora Bora like we talked about last week. Have y'all been thinking about that for Pastor Appreciation Day? Those of you who were here last week, the Bora Bora trip. I mean, I'm more than welcome. I can go. I can take off whatever week that you guys do that. But he wasn't there. He wasn't kicked back and relaxing when he wrote this verse. He was actually in prison when he wrote this verse. And as little that we want to go be in the prison system today, it's a horrible place. But the prison system back then, in the ancient world, man, it was deplorable. It was horrible. It was the last place that you wanted to go. And Paul wrote these words in prison, and he says, I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Right? So we're going to all read that. Are you ready? Little audience participation to get you over the hangover of Christmas food and all that stuff. It just get you going, all right? So on the count of three, we're going to read this verse out loud. Everybody good with that? Don't be a party pooper. Just don't be that guy who goes, I ain't good. I ain't doing it. I just ain't doing it. Don't be that guy. We're just going to read it out loud. You ready? 1, 2, 3. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Okay, that's good. That's good. But one more time with a little bit more behind it, like from down here, right? Down here. You ready? 1, 2, 3. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Now hold on to that, because you're going to think that we just did that for no reason. And you're going to think that why are we reading that verse? We're going to come back to that verse in just a little bit. Even when you don't think that we're coming back to it, we're coming back to that verse. All right? But I want to ask you a question first. Have you guys ever had anything in your life that you thought raised your cool factor, but looking back on it, the only thing it raised was like your nerd level? Have you guys, like hairdo? Any ladies from the 80s? That's probably what you're thinking about. I'm just saying, I'm not making fun. I'm just stating a fact. So like jackets, like the members only jackets. You remember everybody used to wear those all the time. Those like Those windbreaker jackets, they were really cool. You used to wear those thinking you were hot stuff, but now you look back and you go, dude, I look like Richard Simmons. What was I doing in that? Right? I remember the Walkman, right? The very initial phase of the Walkman, you coming out, instead of carrying the boom box on your shoulder, like you went a little bit more portable. You started carrying a center block around on your belt, right? But you had it was awesome, and you thought you were the coolest person on the face of the planet. But I remember one that trumps every single one of those, okay? And these only came out on special occasions. Like these only came out on like family trips, so like trips to Six Flags or Disney World, right? This is what you see in Disney World all the time back in the day. I remember these, and I want to show you a picture of it right here. Ain't that what you look like? If you went to Disney World as a kid in like the 90s, didn't you have your cool little fanny pack on? Right? Didn't you have that? Don't they look super cool? They look super awesome. But this is 2015, okay? So I would tell you not to do that, okay? And here's the thing. When I was Googling pictures to show you how cool the fanny packs used to be, but they're not anymore, The Rock came up on every single one of them. The Rock, okay? So take note. Don't take fashion statements or get fashion information from The Rock. Okay, don't do that. Go another direction. Look for somebody else. But this was like the New Kids on the Block era, right? You had the cool neon orange and pink and green, lime green that said New Kids on the Block. It was cool. You went to Disney World and you were awesome. But what would you think about somebody if they wore that today in here? Don't say it out loud. I know probably the direction you're going. Don't say that out loud. But I'm just saying, if you could look back on some of your pictures today, I promise you there's something in your life and on your body, fashion statement, hairdo, whatever, that you would go, man, I would go back and change that. Like if I had an opportunity, I would have went back and changed that. And that's what the new year, right? The first of the year, everybody starts to think about what you want to change, right? Whether it's physically, I need to go back to the gym. I gained 40 pounds in 3 months. I need to go to the gym. Like it's happening. People are doing it. It works. Like you're Googling it works. How many of you know what that is? Okay, none of you have Facebook because it's all over my Facebook feed. I'm telling you, people are selling it works. And I'm just saying, I don't know if it does or not. Try it out and let me know. If you try it out and you don't die, I might try it. I don't know. But everybody's looking for things to change in their life, whether it's a relationship, right? Need to change a relationship. It's not going too well. I need to do some things to change that, to make it get better, right? I need to change something spiritually. Maybe some of you, that's why you're here this morning. You said, man, I'm going to start the year off right, and I'm going to go to church. But at the first of the year, that's what everybody wants to do, is they want to change something about them. And this morning, I want to walk us through how change can start to take place in our lives through the story that church people call the story of the prodigal son, right? It's in Luke chapter 15. If you got your Bibles, if you don't have your Bibles, no problem, man. We got some verses up here that we're going to go to in just a minute. It's in Luke chapter 15, and I want to walk us through how change can start to take place in our lives. Okay, so first thing, for change to start to take place in your life, no matter where it is, relationally, spiritually, physically, number one thing that you got to do for change to take place in your life is, number one, you got to see it as necessary. Okay, you got to see it as necessary. For change to take place in your life, no matter where that is, you have to see change as necessary. And I want to show you this. Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 15, verse 11 says, Jesus continued. So he was telling some stories. He was teaching some people. He continued and said, there was a man who had 2 sons. And the younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Now, in this time with those people that were around when Jesus was talking, at this point when he said that, they probably went, oh my gosh, did you hear that? Did you hear what that guy did? Did you hear what that son did? Because you normally get your inheritance or your estate when your parents die, right? When they kick the bucket, it's yours. Congratulations. I hope they have a lot, and I hope you get a lot. But this guy goes, you know what? I don't like how things are being ran around here. I don't like how I'm getting treated. Like I don't like everything that's going, and some things need to change. And I tell you what needs to change first is you need to give me everything that's going to be mine when you die. And everybody who heard that went, I can't believe he said that. Because he's essentially going, Dad, I just wish you would die. I just wish you would give everything to me, and I would go and do everything that I want to do. I would make the changes that I think need to make happen. And I just wish you would die. And everybody just went, oh, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? But I want to point out something to you real quick. Is that the son still had a relationship with the father. Right? The son had a relationship with the father. The son had a relationship with the Father. And the way that we have a relationship with the Father today is through Jesus, right? So if we know Jesus, if we've asked Jesus to come into our life, if Jesus lives in us, then Jesus gives us a way to be connected and have a relationship with the Father. And you're like, well, why are you pointing this out? Where are you going? It's gonna click in just a second. Look at this right here. Look at verse 13. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had and set off for a distant country. What kind of country? Distant. That's very important. He set off for a distant country and there squandered his wealth in wild living. So quick question. Did the son still have a relationship with the father? Yes or no? Yes. The son, you can say that with a little bit more confidence. The son still had a relationship with the father. Okay? Just like your kids. If your kids grow up, if you have kids, your kids grow up one day and they're 30 and they hate your guts, will they still be your son or daughter? They still have a relationship with you. But the issue here is that the boy was distant from the father. The boy had ran away from the father. So the son still had a relationship with the father, but he was in a place that he didn't need to be. He was in a place that he didn't need to be. So watch this, verse 14. After he had spent everything. How much is that? That's all of it. After he had spent everything. So here's your inheritance. I squandered it. I've spent everything. After you spend everything, here's the thing. Sin will cost you more than you ever thought that it would cost you. And it will take you further than you ever wanted to go. And it'll get you to a place in your life that you can never repay what you've done. Right? Sin will take you farther than you ever wanted to go. So he spent everything. And there was a famine in the whole country, and it began to be in need. And check this out, verse 15. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his field to feed the pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. Now, to a Jewish person in this culture, that was the most disgusting, grossest thing imaginable, right? Because pigs back then, to them, man, they were horrible, awful, disgusting creatures, right? They didn't want anything to do with pigs. And just because this boy was going, man, I just really like to eat what they're eating. Like, I'm so in need that I have nothing. I just like to eat what I'm feeding the pigs. For him to get to that place, you know that he's as low as that he can possibly go. There's something in his life that he goes, man, something needs to change. Something has to take place. Like he's at the ultimate fanny pack moment right now. Like his life is the ultimate fanny pack, and he's going, man, I need to change that. That was like a 90s deal. It's 2015. We need to change some of that. So check this out. Verse 17. When he came to his senses. When he came to his senses. That's the phrase that starts the change in our lives. Wherever you're at, whatever change needs to take place, you don't need somebody to tell you. Like, that's what I love about church sometimes is we think we can tell you what you need to change in your life. You don't need anybody to tell you that. Like, you know the things that need to change in your life. Like, you don't need somebody else's opinion on that. So he gets to this place and he goes, man, this is my life. This is my life, and something has to change. So when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am, starving to death. So the Bible said that he came to his senses. He looked at his life and he said, man, this may be how my life is right now, but this isn't how my life has to be. Right? This isn't how it has to stay. Something has to change. Somebody has to change, and that somebody has to be me. And the boy saw change as necessary. He saw change as necessary. And for change to start to happen in our lives, no matter what that is or what that entails for you, for change to start to take place in your life, we have to see change as necessary. And I know what you're thinking, right? You're thinking about what needs to change in your life. And you're going, man, listen, that's not going to be easy. Like, I know what I need to change. I know what I need to do. I know all of that stuff. And maybe you've tried it for years and years in the past and you can't ever change it. And you're going, man, it's just not easy. No, it ain't easy. Right? For this guy, it wasn't easy. Right? He was in a distant country. He was in a famine. And he was in a pig pen. Right? It ain't easy. But the first step for change in your life is for you to see change as necessary. So I want to give you this. If you're a note taker, man, I want you to jot this down. If you're not, just remember it. Here's the thing. Just because change is necessary doesn't mean it's easy. And that's why I need His strength in me. If you get nothing else out of today, I want you to get that. Just because change is necessary doesn't mean it's easy. That's why I need His strength in me. Just because change is necessary doesn't mean that it's easy. And that's why I need His strength in me. Now I want to give you the good news and the bad news. Right? Bad news first. Here's the thing. If Jesus isn't a part of your life, you can't change. You can't change. You can give the world a new, better, improved version of you with six-pack abs and a thicker wallet. You can do that. But your new version will still be incomplete compared to what Jesus can do in your life. And I want you to hear that. I want you to hear that from the bottom of my heart. Your new version, whatever you think the new version is, without Jesus, man, it's still incomplete compared to what Jesus can do in and through your life. So just because change is necessary doesn't mean it's easy. So that's why I need His strength in me. Now, if you're a Christian, if you've accepted Jesus, if you have Christ in you, then anything and everything can change. Anything and everything can change. There is nothing impossible for God, no matter what that looks like in your life this morning. With Christ, everything and anything can change. And then he goes on. Verse 18. Go on to verse 18. Well, no, let me go back. Here's the second thing right quick. You can go back to that one. Second thing, for change to happen in our lives, number one, we have to see change as necessary. Number two, we have to live obediently. Right? Number one, we got to see change as necessary, and we have to live obediently. So let me ask you this question: What's your fanny pack? Like in your life right now, what's your fanny pack? What's your 90s fashion style that you don't want to do anymore? What's your past look like that you don't want to take into 2015? What's your fanny pack? Because for some people, their fanny pack is the abuse of drugs and alcohol, right? For some people, the fanny pack is gossip. Like, yeah, it's just what you love. You just love to gossip, but that's your fanny pack. And you're going, man, I need to change that. Like, that doesn't need to stay the same. Maybe your fanny pack is a relationship that you're in that you don't really need to be in. Or maybe your relationship is the affair that took place that you didn't see coming, but it happened. Right? Maybe that's your fanny pack. Maybe that's what needs to change in your life. Maybe the thing that needs to change in your life, maybe your fanny pack is self-righteousness. Right? You look down at other people because you think you got it all together, right? But here's the thing. What do we say in here all the time? We're nothing but a bunch of jacked up people. And I don't know many churches that you can go to that the preacher can say that and that the people in the congregation can go, we're a bunch of jacked up people. Yeah. Right? I don't know what kind of culture we set, but it clung to you. But we're a bunch of jacked up people, and sometimes we get a little self-righteous. Right? And we think we're better than we actually are, but it's only by the grace of Jesus. It's only by the grace of Jesus that we live the life that we live. So what's your fanny pack? See, when you start naming fanny packs, it gets a little tense. Do you feel that? Do you feel it? When you start naming stuff, it gets a little tense. But until change takes place in our lives, until we see change as necessary, until we start living obediently, man, change isn't going to happen. So let's look. Let's look down. Luke 15, verse 18. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, this is the boy. Man, I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. And I wasn't going to stop here, but I read this passage and I can't go any further. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Isn't that how you feel sometime in your relationship with God? That's how I feel sometimes. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Hold on to that for a minute. Hold on to that for a minute. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and he went to his father. Stop. Right there. Stop. That's awesome. That's awesome. Right? He got up and went to his father. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son, but I need change to happen in my life. He was in the pig pen, right? He was in a distant country, in a famine, in the pig pen, and he says, man, change has to take place in my life. And the first step to change is seeing change as necessary, right? And he sees change as necessary, and he gets to a place and he goes, man, I cannot be here forever. Like, this is my life. This is the only one I get, and something's got to change. Something's got to happen. So he went to his father. He went to his father. And I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell you this. The hardest thing about change is the very first step. Right? Anybody familiar with like 12-step programs? And all that stuff like that? You start going through the programs, you get into the program, and before you can get help, what's the first thing you have to admit? Hey, I'm an addict, right? I'm an addict. Like, this is my problem. Change has to happen. I see change is necessary, so now I can get help. So he realizes that the first thing to change is me going, man, I just got to take a step. I just got to take a step. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get home. I don't know what the journey is going to be like, but I just got to get out of the pig pen and I got to take a step. No matter how many people tell me that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing, going back to church on the new year, trying to change your life, I just got to take a step. I just got to take a step. I don't know how my father's going to react to this. I don't know how my mother's going to react to this. I don't know how my brother is going to react to this, but the first thing I need to do is take a step. And for some of you this morning, the first thing that we have to do for change to take place is us to stop thinking about what change needs to take place and just take a step. Take a step. So he takes a step and he runs back home to his father. And I want to show you this right here. Luke chapter 15, verse 20. It says, but while the boy was still a long way off, his father saw him. His father did what? His father saw him. His father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. Here, listen, Jesus sees you today. I don't care where you are, where you've been, what you're doing, what you've been a part of. Jesus sees you, and he's not mad at you. He's filled with compassion for you. No matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, no matter what you find yourself here this morning, go, man, this needs to change. Jesus sees you, and he's not mad at you. He's filled with compassion for you. So the man ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your what? I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Man, I've messed up. I've done so much stuff. All this change that you're talking about, I don't even know if it can take place in my life. Like, I'm a jacked up individual. And Father, I'm not even worthy to be called your son. But this morning, how many of you know that Jesus gives you hope? Right? So nobody knows that. Jesus gives hope. Come on. Now that's a great thing in your life. No matter what your situation is, Jesus brings hope. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For the son of mine that was dead is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Now I want to show you something. I've never seen this before. Out of all the times reading this and hearing it preached on throughout I've never seen this the way that I've seen it when I was preparing for this morning. Go back to verse 22 if you're in your Bible. All you got to do is go to the next screen if you're on there. Ashley, you can go to the next one. Verse 22, but the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring a robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and put sandals on his feet. See, the boy was dirty, right? The boy was in the pig pen. The boy was in a distant country in the pig pen, feeding the pigs. The boy got up out of the pig pen, started towards change, took the first step, walked the whole way back. The boy wanted to change his robe. The boy wanted to change the things in his life, but the boy wasn't in the position to change the things in his life. But when he got in a right relationship with the Father put a new robe on him. The Father put a ring on his finger, and the Father put sandals on his feet. The Father changed him because he was willing to go, man, change is necessary in my life, and I'm just going to take a step. I'm just going to take a step. No matter what that entails, no matter how hard that may be, I'm just going to take a step. And the Father changed the boy. The Father changed the boy. So listen this morning, if you weren't worthy to be called God's son or daughter this morning, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. Listen, if you ain't dead, God ain't done. All right? If you ain't dead, God ain't done. I don't care where you've been, what you've done, what's going on in your life. If you ain't dead, God ain't done. Okay? And I don't know, somebody may need to hear that this morning. If God has still got you on this planet, then there is still something that God wants to change in your life. And He wants to make you more like Him. And we get to this place as humans, me included, and we go, man, I've been doing this for years. I want to change, right? I want to change. But it's like every time I change, it changes for like 3 weeks, and then I go back. It changes for 3 months, and then I go back. It changes for this, and then I go back, and I just don't think I'm worthy to be called God's son or daughter. And the boy walked toward the Father, and the Father ran toward the Son, not to judge him, not to condemn him, but to wrap him in his arms and say, my son is home, and I want to hold him, and the change that needs to take place in your life is the change that I can give you today. That's what the Father was saying to the Son, and that's what God's saying to us this morning. No matter where you are, you're still worthy to be called God's son or daughter. Maybe you've just ran to a distant country, and you're in the wrong place. And for change to happen in our life, number one, we've got to see it as necessary. And number two, we got to live obediently. We've got to get to a place in our life where we go, man, I'm tired of living like that. I'm tired of living like that. I'm tired of being messed up all the time. I'm tired of being weighed down. I'm tired of being depressed. I'm tired of living life the way that I'm living it. And I need to change. And the Father changed the boy as soon as the boy got in a right relationship with God. So for change to happen in our lives, change starts to happen when you recognize that change is necessary, and when you start to live obediently, and when you say, man, I'm coming home. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. When we get to a place where we go, Jesus, I'm coming home. And I don't feel like I'm worthy, but I know you'll accept me. And I can't make a change in my life by myself, but I know you're the one. When I get in a right relationship with you, you're the one that can make that change in my life. But some changes are hard, right? Some things in your life are screwed up and messed up, and they're hard to change. And see, here's what we do. We go, man, I can't do it. I can't do that. I no matter how long I try, no matter what I do, how many times I come to church, how many times I pray about it, how many times I read it's like nothing ever happens. It's impossible. I can't change that part. That's just who I am. I can't change it. And here's what I would say to you. Every single one of you in here have said, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Right? Put that one back on the screen right there. Ashley, go to the next one. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. There's not a change that needs to take place in your life, whatever's running through your mind, that you can't change as soon as you get in a right relationship with God. As soon as you see it as necessary, and as soon as you start to live obediently, God will take that and he will start molding it. He will start shaping it. He will start changing it. No matter what it is that is against you this morning, you're worthy to be called God's son. You're worthy to be called God's daughter. Not because of what you did, but because of Jesus, what he did on the cross. And it's not because of how cool you are, how awesome you are, but it's what Jesus did on the cross that pours over your life, that makes you worthy to God, and that makes you able to change the things that are going on in your life.